Plant choices for landscaping. Now, how do you know which plants to choose when you are trying to enhance or even create a native landscape? And how to support the pollinators that are going to be part of that landscape? And here's the unfortunate reality that we all have to deal with. It's very difficult to find native plants in your commercial landscaping or hardware stores. And that's where everyone goes to find plants. And so, because of this reality, identifying appropriate plants becomes difficult. However, there still can be sources for these native components. And by identifying the native component, you can seek out the sources. And having native plants available is something that hopefully, as we all get more accustomed to using native flora, that will be a more prevalent availability for today's generation and tomorrow. Unfortunately, by choosing some of these available plants from these commercial sites, they have actually led to degrading or even destroying the natural food web and the relationships that occur in an environment. So by just incorporating one or two non-native species into a location, it can degrade and even destroy the habitat that has always been there in that natural area. So it's essential to identify your native species prior to going out and searching for them, because unfortunately you're not going to find them at your commercial stores and at the easier places to go. It's going to take some effort, but the effort is far worth it, because the plant choices have real effects on the survival of populations of pollinators and native animals, because they're all dependent on each other. And that reality is why it's essential to choose specific species for specific locations. And you can even enhance the ecological value by certain species of that location. For instance, in a lot of areas when you're trying to, let's say, do remediation or cleaning up of toxins that have been placed in our soils, our native plants have this capacity to do this natural. It's called phytoremediation. And why do they have this capacity? Because our native plants have this ability to uptake nutrients and all of these compounds that today, unfortunately, include these harmful chemicals and toxins. But back in the day, why were they used for medicine and for food? Is because they had this great capacity to pull out these nutrients from the soils. And so today, that same mechanism helps them pull out toxins and pull out contaminants. And so because of that reality, by placing them in certain locations, let's say you have a runoff that's coming into your location, that's coming from the streets and coming from the urban landscape, and before it goes into, let's say, a very valuable, sensitive ecological area, you want to buffer it, you can now buffer it with these plants that have this capacity to pull out those toxins before they get into your sensitive areas. And to clean up the buffer area as well. By choosing the correct plants for the location and by understanding their needs, because all plants don't require all the same needs. Some like a lot of water, some don't like a lot of water. So by understanding these differences, you can place, if you need a drought-tolerant landscape, you place a lot of upland plants and plants that are used to not having all this water. If you want to clean up a landscape, you may place more riparian plants, plants that are associated with stream courses and water areas, because those plants have the higher capacity to draw out contaminants. So because of their physiology and just their natural composition, they're able to do jobs. And you can help them do a job, not only for the wildlife, but also for us. So it can clean the environment and provide the ecological value. So just by choosing appropriate plants and not going straight to the commercial hardware and landscape nurseries, that decision in itself will benefit not only the landscape, but the community at hand. So the plant choices that are decided for the enhancement or for the creation of natural landscapes actually have a direct effect on the survival of the wildlife populations and the benefits to the community. So land managers, planners, policymakers, they all can have an effect by choosing the appropriate species for location when making their landscaping decisions. So I encourage you, by making these landscape decisions and looking for these native plants, you can be the change maker for our future generations. And in helping them have an environment that is there to benefit, to teach, and to learn from. And that is your choice.